This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.
How would you like to get more customers, make more profits, and have bigger breakthroughs? Get Doberman Dan's Profit Boosting Breakthroughs. Normally, this would cost you $98 per month, but right now, for listening to this show, he's giving you a free copy of his Doberman Dan letter. All you have to do is go to DobermanDan.com and sign up to get your free copy now.
Prepare yourself for the uncensored, nothing held back, no BS reality of how business and life really work. Doberman Dan is off the chain.
Welcome back, K9 Crew, to another edition of Off the Chain with Mr. Doberman Dan, the low-tech podcast host that you love most. Buddy, what's up with the hotline? Can you remind us again why we have a hotline?
Yes, the hotline is, speaking of low tech, so like it's an extra phone line in my house and it's hooked up to one of those answering machines that works with cassettes.
Nice.
So
mini cassette or full size?
Mini. That's it's, so in my opinion, that's high tech, but I'm making it up. That's not it. I'm not that low tech, but yeah, I mean, we want to hear from you. I'd like to hear what you think of the shows. If you think they suck, if you think they're mediocre on our best shows, or if you're loving what you're hearing, and it would also be cool to hear any ideas you got for future shows. So just give us a ring at 321-424-6043 and just spill your guts, man. Tell me what's on your mind. And I might even feature your call on an upcoming episode of Off the Chain. So give us a call, 321-424-6043. We'd love to hear from you.
I'm a little disappointed you didn't do the radio announcer voice, and I think we'd have more success if we said that was a complaint line. Call up, give us shit about everything you hate, and we'll make fun of you.
Yeah, we'll get 10 times more calls if we say it's a complaint line. And then I'll do the Howard Stern thing, and I will just totally trash you on a future episode.
Yeah, you talk to it. You talk to the recording.
Yeah, exactly. I'll play the recording and then counter.
Yeah,
I'll
exactly.
Counter like one of my favorite TV commenters from the 80s on the David Letterman show, Flunky the Ain't Like Clown. So my counter will be whatever you say. My counter will be, hey, you little weasel, bite me. And that's it.
Bite me. All right.
Today I have my earbud in my left ear. Would you like to know why?
Yes.
Because someone told me that the left ear is connected to the right brain, the creative side of the brain. So I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth today.
So you have a guest for us. Who is here with us today?
Well, we have a guest today, Sean McCool. Yes, McCool is his real last name. It is not a stage name. We've known each other how long now? 7 years?
I think we first met in 2010 when I was first going freelance.
And since then, you've wised up and have stopped being a freelance copywriter.
Sort of. I've got a couple B2B clients that I hang on to because they're just too good to pass up. But they're super easy and they fit my lifestyle. So I've kept those. The other ones that are paying, yes, I've dropped.
Good decision. All the freelance copywriters are going to want to know why. If you haven't figured it out by now, just keep doing it. You will figure it out. But you've gone in a different direction, which I want to talk about. But first, how did you find your way into direct response copywriting? Because I've not heard from anybody yet who says, well, I just want to be a copywriter since I was a kid.
Yeah, that was definitely not me. Talk about the flunky, the clown or whatever. I was a flunky in school, high school, actually started in middle school, failed 7th grade, failed 10th grade, made it both up in summer school, somehow got into college. There's no way my grades would have let me in college today if I was trying to go, because it's just, more competitive. And, but somehow I squeaked into college, flunked out of college, and then went into the military, I graduated high school in 89. So in the 90s, a lot of people still wanted a college degree, and it was still kind of maybe worth something. I don't really think so, but a lot of people still thought it was. Less entrepreneurs, I think, companies than there are today. So I got out of the military after 3 years in the military. I was up in the old guard in Washington, D.C. Not a lot of skills transferred from that to the real world. So found myself going into sales because sales would hire anybody with a breath, for a commission-only sales job. So I got into that business and just kind of bounced around there for 10 years coming out of the military. Then did okay, was never the top salesman, never the worst salesman, kind of, top, 30%, right at that line of the top 30% and the second 30%. So getting by, but not living great, working a lot of hours, those kind of things. And then sometime in 2002, I think my dad started a construction business. Great time to start a construction business right during the boom, but right before the bust. So about the time we got things working well, the bust came along in 2007, 2008. And I'd heard about this thing called copywriting from the folks at AWAI. And it appealed to me because I'd always enjoyed writing in high school, had a little bit of a knack for it. And my sales experience that I'd developed over the last, 12 years at that point, 10 or 12 years, I was like, well, this seems like a cool marriage of those two skills. So I started looking into it, took the course, applied it to some friends, to my dad's business, with a friend who had a water treatment business and had some success. And then went to one of AWAI's boot camps that they do every year and heard that Stansberry was hiring up in Baltimore. And I applied for that position, got that position in 2008, worked there on staff up in Baltimore for about a year and a half, and then went freelance after that. And I've worked for, most of the Agora affiliates and a lot of the financial publishers outside of Agora and all kinds of stuff. So that's the long version of how I got into copy. So it was kind of a result of, my name was on somebody's list, on AWAI's list somehow, had a little sales background, a little writing background, put them together, and presto, copywriting career.
And you jumped into the deep end of the pool in copywriting. Financial copywriting has got to be one of the hardest, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It's that and health. I mean, health is right up there too, especially with the restrictions and the other stuff. But yeah, financial is, and I think financial is probably harder today than it was back then. I think it's even harder now. It's because, there's only so many ways to talk about dividend stocks and call options and the 4 or 5 things that you can talk about. There's not a lot of ways to talk about that. So then you have to start getting into current events and other things. And, it just wasn't for me. I enjoyed the ride while I did it and I learned a lot. It's just not something I'm passionate about in general in the investing world. So it just wasn't a good fit for me.
So how did that lead you where you are now? Well, tell us about what you're doing now.
Yeah, so now I'm doing, I still do some copyright on the side. For instance, I have a B2B client who's been on retainer for 6 years. In fact, I'm having dinner with them tonight. They're buying dinner and we're going over some marketing strategies for the year. And I write emails for them, a couple emails a month. A couple emails a week. Help them with some space ads for trade journals, things like that. And it's a business that most people don't even know exists. It's a $25 million a year business, and they just keep me on retainer. And I probably put in 6 or 8 hours a month and make a nice little retainer. So, and that's been going on for 6 years, and it's been worth mid 6 figures over that time. So,
in a little niche that nobody would know about in B2B, so this is not our topic today, but for any freelance copywriters listening, there are plenty of businesses like that will get spectacular results from your copy just because, it's not a market that normally sees that kind of stuff, like financial and health. That market is so mature. They have seen it all and heard it all. But you apply your skills to something like, you're doing, Sean, with that company, and you're just a rock star.
Yeah, and the truth is the bar is just so much lower. Like you said, and the basics of copywriting work. Like you don't need the advanced, indirect, implied, promise stuff. I mean, you can just go with, direct offers, and you can just go with, just a little bit of personality in an email compared to, and I think that's the other thing that a lot of copywriters don't understand is how poor the people are in business at writing. Like most people in business are terrible writers, not just grammatically. I mean, there's just no flow, cadence, rhythm. It's just hard to read their stuff. And when you can come in and write like people talk, it makes a huge, huge difference in the readability of that copy. So it's if that's all you did for some of these businesses, that would make a difference. Like you don't even have to get into the advanced level stuff. You don't need master's level copywriting secrets. Like you can just do the basics. You can just read Bob Bly's book on, Copywriter's Handbook, and you've got 95% of the businesses out there beat.
That's a good tip. Just good old reason why copy could transform a business.
Yeah, a lot of business. I actually heard that one of my friends, he does consulting and with big businesses and things like that, and he said that 57% of businesses in the world still do not have a website.
Wow.
And he gets paid multiple tens of thousands of dollars to consult on, quote, digital marketing, but he's basically doing, copy strategy is all he's doing. But he just calls it digital marketing because that's what they're looking for right now. But he's applying the basic principles of reason why and all the stuff that we take for granted as copywriters. So yeah, there's a world of business out there if you want it to go get it. And those clients tend to be pretty easy to work with. And I think the sweet spot is a 10, depending on profit margins and some other things. I think the sweet spot is somewhere in the 10 to, $40, $50 million range. They're big enough to have nice budgets for advertising. They're probably already spending money on trade journals, trade shows, things like that. They probably have a list of customers that you can email, but they're not so big that they have a full-blown marketing department because most of their employees are operations, not marketing in those sizes. That's what I found. So if you were to go on Info USA and, do a search for companies in the, 5, 10 million up to 40, 50 million who are already spending, at least 6 figures a year on advertising, which is a pretty easy list to create, you'd have more work more people to go after than you could imagine.
That's a great tip.
That's some good stuff right there.
That is some great stuff. I mean, we could end the interview now and all right, great. Although that's not why I brought you on.
Yeah. So to answer the question right now, what I'm doing is, aside from that B2B copywriting and some little projects, it's amazing when you're in this world and once you're in it a while, like people just find you. I mean, and I heard that promise, from AWAI and other places, but every month, somebody finds me and, or somebody I've worked with in the past is at a new company or whatever. It could be a totally different industry. And they say, hey, Sean, you got time for a little project? And, I'll pick up a little $2,500, $5,000 project here and there and, knock it out in a couple of days or a couple of weeks, depending on what it is. And, so I keep doing that because they keep coming and they're easy. They're not full blown promotions. A lot of times it's little one-off projects, and horses eat a lot. We were talking about my daughter earlier and her horse habit. So horses eat a lot. So it's nice when that comes in. But what my love right now is personal development and building out a personal development brand over the next 45 years. I'm 46 years old. I figure I'm going to work till at least my 90s. So I've got 45 years to build the premier personal development brand in the world. So that's kind of what I'm up to now.
What kind of people do you work with?
Entrepreneurs, small business owners, freelancers. Because that's where I came from. I've always, either been a 1099 contractor. So I have kind of a soft spot for those people. At the same time, I've had some influence, through Facebook posts and some other things where people have reached out to me and told me that, that are employees and things like that, employees at companies. And they're like, your stuff's really helped me get along better at work and things like that. So I'm going to give you an answer that is absolutely uncopy worthy and is the wrong answer marketing. But, there's that market is the people I wanted to help is huge. And it's probably close to everybody, if it's not everybody. And I know you can't market to everybody, at least not all at once. You can eventually. So it's a pretty wide net. And I'm still figuring that out, who that ideal market is and who resonates with my message. I do think there's a little bit of a Christian worldview is who I attract. That's who've been my one-on-one clients so far. So far, my one-on-one clients have been, people with what I would call a Christian or biblical worldview, but are pretty fed up with church. So they're kind of, in that spot. And they've all been self-employed, either running a brick and mortar business or a virtual business. But they've all. So
you don't focus only on, I'm going to coach you into building a better business, a bigger business, maximizing your income. Although that's a part of it, you focus on other aspects too.
Yeah. I mean, what I do is I help people, get unstuck, get to the next level, whatever you want to call it. And it's very, very intuitive, what I do, because of my background, I've probably had 30 or 40 different jobs in my life. Everything from, the military, working third shift in factories, the sales jobs that I've had in a wide range of industries. And, it's not because I was like out searching and trying to master and learn all these things. It's because I was a terrible employee and I was always bouncing from thing to thing and chasing a lot of stuff as I was trying to figure things out. But in retrospect, that has all helped me really have, I think what makes me unique to my clients, and my clients tell me, is the perspective that I have, the way I see the world and the way I help others see the world. And then my ability to connect dots for people. Because I've been in so many different types of businesses at different levels, and in my general background growing up, I have, and my strength finders, if you're familiar with strength finders, is connectedness. My number one strength strength is connectedness. So I see connections that other people just don't see. And I'm able to use that in coaching to help people see things they haven't seen, see possibilities they haven't seen. And once they have a new perspective, then they can see new possibility. When you combine perspective and possibility, then you get performance. Because performance or action, however you want to say it, I like using 3 Ps because I'm a writer and a Southern Baptist kid. So I have to use 3 alliterated points. So when you have perspective and possibility, you combine those, you get performance or action. And without it, people get stuck and they don't move. They know what to do. They know kind of why they want to do it. But for some reason, they're not moving. They're not taking action. So what I do is I help them with that. Or if somebody is taking action, a lot of times I can accelerate that action or create a shortcut for them because of perspective, a new perspective or a new possibility that they had not seen.
That's interesting. And one of the things that spurred this visit today was some email conversations we had. Yeah. And one quote in particular that you sent me from a gentleman named Lawrence Platt, right?
Right.
So let me read that real fast because I want to get your take on all this. Who I am is the space in which the events of my life occur. Who I am is literally the context in which life itself shows up. There's a way we live which has us be in the world yet apart from it. If you tell the truth about it, that's the way you live almost all the time. But if I'm the context in which life itself shows up, then when I live this way, the world and everything in it shows up in the context of who I am. When I live this way, the world and I are one seamless whole. When my perspective on the world shifts from I'm in the world yet apart from it to the world shows up in the context of who I am, then I've shifted the context of life itself. Quite literally, I've recontextualized life itself and everything which goes with life.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful. That grabbed my attention, and that's what I wanted to get into today, if you would indulge me.
Yeah. And it's a lot to chew on. I mean, you could chew on that the rest of your life, probably. I think it goes back. I've been rereading with my local mastermind group. I've been rereading The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, with Stephen Covey's classic. And he talks about something similar in there, which is the paradigm, right? He talks about how you see the world is how the world is for you. And which is basically what the quote you just said read. And it's also what I find with my clients. And this is, we'll bring this back around, but, copywriters, I think, have a unique ability to shift perspective, shift paradigms for people. And the reason is because the way that you shift paradigms, the way that you shift perspectives, the way you change how the world shows up for somebody, the way they see the world, is through language. It's the only tool that we actually have to create change, in my opinion. And I'm open
to more about that.
Yeah, and I'm open to being completely wrong on all this. This is just where I'm at and how the world occurs for me right now, based on what I've learned and what I've seen in my own life. So language, we live. There's a great book. I can't remember the name of it right now. I have it in front of me. Brothers Chalmers is the author, and I just can't remember the name of the title right now.
Oh, Jonathan will have that in a matter of seconds. Trust me.
Yeah. So that book, in there, he talks about we live in language like a fish lives in water. It's all around us. It's what gives us life. It's what gives us the ability to go through life, but we don't even notice it. And we tend to use language as a descriptive tool to describe things instead of a declarative or a creative tool to create things.
Okay, that's I got to stop you right there, because say that again, please, if you can remember what you just said.
Yeah, so we tend to use language as a descriptive tool as opposed to using it as a creative or a declarative tool where we actually create things in life. So I'll stop there.
Yeah. So this is probably a really poor analogy. But the first thing that just popped into my mind is love him or hate him. It appears to me that Trump spoke his future into existence. That dude truly believed, in spite of whether you think he's qualified or not to be president, and he's probably not. I mean, he said he was qualified because he built this huge business, but he believed it. And when you look back through all the stuff he said in the media, it appeared to me like he was, and forgive me, I came from a Pentecostal background, so name it and claim it, brother. But it seemed to me like he was speaking his future into existence.
Yeah, I agree. And the way he declared things, and that's what we're kind of talking about, and that's what I work with my clients on, is actually having them declare, into existence the business they want, the relationships with their family that they want, the health that they want. And we've heard about this in goal setting. We've heard about, writing your goals in the present tense and using I am. And we've all heard about it, but hearing about it and trying it out are not the same things.
Big time.
Right? And it does take some consistency, because it takes practice to consistently use these things. And it goes beyond affirmations. I mean, it feels like affirmations, kind of looks like affirmations if you were to look at it on paper, but it really is using the power of language to create. I remember when I was first learning this, my wife and I were going out to dinner and Dickey's Barbecue, and it's in a little shopping center here. And out in front of the Dickey's Barbecue, there's a wrought iron bench that, somebody made and placed in that spot. And we were walking by it, and I was like, that bench was not always here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it just wasn't always here. I mean, at some point that was a park. I mean, that parking lot, that sidewalk, that building wasn't there. It was just a field. And somebody came along, first decided they were going to develop the area and put in shopping centers. Then, somebody else came along and decided how to design it and what the store layouts would be and where the landscaping would go. And maybe a little bench would look nice right here. That all happened because someone somewhere along the way said, I think a bench would look good there. I'm going to put a bench there. And they went through the process of convincing whoever they need to convince. And literally what did not exist, the bench wasn't anywhere. It wasn't sitting somewhere waiting necessarily for that particular spot. Like somebody had to decide that's where it was going to go. The bench had to be made. Maybe there was somebody who made benches before, and so they declared the bench into existence. And an architect said, "Oh, I know this place that makes benches. I'm going to use that bench and put it here." But the fact is, at some point in the past, that bench did not exist in that place. And And the only explanation of how it got there is a series of conversations.
So somebody took something from the metaphysical and created it in the physical because it was nothing. It was an idea in somebody's mind that I think a picture would be a good idea.
Oh, I bet you're so sad to hear my voice right now, Canine Crew. But you know how we do it around here. We're splitting up this interview with Mr. Sean McCool. So we'll be back next week to wrap things up, go into the physical and metaphysical realm and get really heady. So come back next week and we will fill up your earbuds with more goodness. Thanks for tuning in. Canine Crew, before you run off, I want to remind you, Doberman Dan has set up an off-the-chain hotline. Call in, tell us you love us. It's even better if you tell us you hate us. It doesn't matter what you say. All you have to do is call in, leave a message. The number is 321-424-6043. Again, off-the-chain hotline, 321-424-6043. Thanks for listening, and remember, if you want to create rivers of revenue from your existing customers, then the next thing you need to do is go to DobermanDan.com. He's giving away a free copy of his $98 per month Doberman